Well, Jim, we got a couple questions in regards to star ratings that have been sent into the show. This first one was sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Ed. I would like to know what you thought of the Hogan versus Rock match from WrestleMania 18. I don't think there has been a comparable atmosphere for any match since, and as someone who wasn't alive during Hulkamania, it really showcased how Hogan had become such a huge star. I was thinking about this match because Meltzer gave it 3 stars, but he just gave the Young Bucks versus Jurassic Express from All Out 4.25 stars. So Hogan versus The Rock.
Well, first of all, do you know where I was when that match took place?
In Louisville, I would assume.
No, I was in Toronto across the street at the hotel.
Really? I didn't
because here's what happened. We had to go up to Toronto for WrestleMania weekend. Me and Danny Davis didn't go that year. Danny went to Houston also. Danny hated to leave town even worse than me. But we had developmental meetings and et cetera, and everybody was invited up to WrestleMania, and Stacy hadn't been to Toronto. So we go to Toronto. That was before they started checking my driver's license. Anyway, we had been there. We get there at, I think, 1:00. They said, gather at the hotel and we'll take all the guests over. And we're guests and everything. What they did was they took us over there and they put us in one of the sky boxes in the Sky Dome. I've been farther away from fucking rock concerts that were happening in Louisville, or I've been closer rather to rock concerts that were happening in Louisville while I was in my house than you are to the ring if you were in a fucking skybox in the Sky Dome. And it was with, it was family and guests, and they had the nibbles and everything. But I'm sitting there, and it was a fairly long show, and we're watching the show from the fucking box in the Sky Dome. And I say, we could go across and back to the hotel and get some room service because I'm starving, and all they had was nibbles. And so we left early. The previous year, I was on the show, and we were sitting in the locker room where a bunch of the fucking, guys in the gimmick battle royal had been, and we were watching the monitor. That was okay. And we can talk to the boys. But I couldn't be myself around everybody's wife and aunt and family guests. And it was thrilling neither one of us to watch the fucking matches from 250 yards away. So we bailed early. So I never actually saw that match.
Not even after the fact on video?
No, I didn't really give a shit.
Wow, it really is quite the match. It's a spectacle. It's amazing.
It's a spectacle. And see, that's the point. The point is, even Dave in those days, and I can't remember what he gave Hogan and Warrior, which was obviously abysmal, but it was
okay. It was one of the best Warrior matches ever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, still. And Hogan and Andre, I think, what was that? Was that 3 stars because of the
Hogan and Andre? Originally, I think it was like -4 stars or something,
or -4 stars or whatever. I don't. The point is, Dave used to somewhat reward spectacles, but still keep it in perspective. Yes, Hogan and Rock was a spectacle with the incredible atmosphere, and it's Toronto, so it's Hogan, probably in North America, his best city, and it's the fucking Rock at his hottest, and they had a much better match than Hogan and Warrior or Hogan and fucking Andre because the Rock was involved in it. But I mean, I don't know which way to look at it. Do you rate the actual match just on the match? Because then in that case, Hogan and Andre was one of the worst wrestling matches ever held. Or do you rate the spectacle and the box office and the historic nature of it? It at that point, it wasn't even, really the guy's fault that the match sucked. If it had been Andre in 1974 versus Hogan in 1987, it would have been a lot better, wouldn't it? But still, it was the irresistible force, the immovable object. So
no one chanted boring in the
Nobody
Silverdome.
chanted boring because it was what it was. You know, and it wasn't as bad as Big Daddy and fucking Giant Haystacks. And at least they gave the people, you know, what they came to see, which was some time and the stars and the finish. So I mean, Dave's ratings are beyond ridiculous now. And if you go back and look, he's given some of these AEW TV matches that don't even make any sense higher ratings than he was given pay-per-view main events with the biggest stars in the business 20 years ago. And they're not even remotely that good, nor memorable, nor historic, nor with the level of star power involved. So he's just now, I mean, if you shaved some chimpanzees and put them in, you know, a couple old pairs of Jelly's tights and sent them out there, he would just rate the moves and give it 3.5 stars. It is what it is, and the ratings, the star ratings are ludicrous anyway, as we've talked about at length, coming from the guy who started the whole fucking thing. But
is there any chance we can get you to watch Rock versus Hogan?
Why don't we do that for a watch along?
Yeah, I mean, I would really be curious. I mean, because again, it's Hogan and the NWO just coming in, you know, well after when Vince should have done a deal with a lot of these WCW guys. He brings in Hogan and the NWO. I believe that's when Steve Austin refused to work with Hogan. So instead he worked with Scott Hall, and they gave Hogan to The Rock. And it's an interesting dynamic because Hogan's the heel, but those Toronto fans, the same fans that were there for the Warrior match, they changed the entire way that match goes. It's incredible. It's an incredible match you have to watch with the sound on for the first time if you haven't watched it.
All right, well, in that case, we will do that for our palate cleansing watch along on next week's Drive-Thru.
Oh, great.
There you have it. See, now we've actually booked something to come back with.
That's how you book.
There you go.
I just found some of my old booking sheets from the 90s.
Let me ask you this. Were you like Tony Khan? Did you start booking wrestling before you had hair on your balls?
No, I already had hair on my balls.
Well, folks, I got news for you.
Jesus
you
Christ,
can be right now, just like Tony Khan, you can be a booker with no hair on your balls, folks, with Manscaped.
God, what? Where did this come from?
Manscaped. Don't be sitting there in your basement or your rec room and booking your fantasy wrestling federation with hairy balls, ladies and gentlemen. Now you can be groomed so well with the best personal grooming tools on the planet. From our friends at Manscaped, they turn loud shrieks into multiple peaks. You know, you scream when you cut yourself down there, Brian, the nether regions, the woolly swamp. Well, if you ever go back in the woolly swamp, folks, you better not go at night. There's things out there in the middle of them woods that leave a strong man dying of fright. Things that crawl and things that fly and things that creep around on the ground. And they say that only Manscaped products will help you keep nice and smooth and smelling good. You don't know what that's from, do you?
I don't.
You're not a Charlie Daniels aficionado.
I'm not a big Charlie Daniels fan.
The legend of Woolly Swamp. Anyway, folks, the Woolly Swamp is gone with Manscaped, whether it's the Lawnmower 3.0, the best ball trimmer ever created, or whether it is the Shears 2.0, a nail trimming kit that they have now got as a complement to that, regardless of what. They'll change your life, folks. We've talked about the lawnmower. It's got the LED light, which illuminates the area. You can backlight those hairs. They're much easier to swipe off that way. You won't nick yourself. You can use this in the shower. It's waterproof. The battery lasts up to 90 minutes. As we've mentioned many times, if it takes you more than 90 minutes to shave your crotchal area, please get a job at a sideshow or conduct some type of experiment with medical science. Anyway, so many people have talked about it, how the Lawnmower 3.0 has changed their lives, and they can change yours. Folks, go to manscaped.com. Use the code DRIVE and get 20% off and free shipping. Your balls will thank you for the Lawnmower 3.0. It's time to reduce the cuts on your nuts.